Anime Gypsy here, and before I start this video, I'd like to talk about why I'm doing this video. To be honest, I didn't know what I was gonna do for One Piece's 20th anniversary, and I realized that making a discussion video about each of the Straw Hats would be a good way to go. In this video, I'm gonna talk about character, skill, and potential power-ups in the future. Now, of course, if you read the title, you'll know that this video is about Sanji Vinsmoke. Vinsmoke Sanji, whatever. So, we're going to start with characterization. In terms of characterization, Sanji he's a kind man. He's not the type of person that you see that's too kind and apologizes for everything, but at the same time, you know he's kind through his actions. He's very street smart. He knows how to deal with situations, how to talk to people. He's tactically smart. Now, I'd like to give some examples of this. In terms of kindness, the two overriding events that displayed this, the first one is him deciding to save his father, Judge, or Judgy Vinsmoke, after everything that Judgy did to him. That, in my perspective, takes, it's just so powerful how they just kept making fun of him right before the wedding, and he was crying and he was talking about how he couldn't let his family die. It was just so touching, and that's that's the biggest highlight in terms of Sanji's kindness. Now, the second one goes way back to the Baratie, and that was when he was planning to feed all of the Dawn Creek pirates, and when he fed Jin. Now, if you realize right there and then, it was more along the line of you feed them, and there's a potential that they might kill you. Now, that, in my perspective, is also big. You have a lot of other examples, but those, in my perspective, are the two biggest examples of Sanji's kindness. Now, his kindness aside, let's talk about his chivalry. In terms of chivalry, well, not just chivalry, his overall gentlemanly persona. Now, we see him always wearing formal wear, and that kind of gives us a sense of professionalism, and that's something that a lot of people miss in Sanji, is that when it comes to his job, he's always serious, and he's the type of person that doesn't slack when it comes to his work. He's not, and that actually sets him apart from the other Straw Hats. They don't slack, but they're like, Luffy would sometimes joke around while fighting. Sanji, when it comes to cooking, no, cooking is cooking. He's creative, but cooking is cooking, and he's professional. He has a professional persona towards it, and that's portrayed in how serious he is when he cooks, how he does it, his skill level, and his attire. Now, that aside, you have his ladies first type chivalry, where he has values that basically tell him not to harm a lady in any way, shape, or form. He even said that he would rather die than kick a woman. Now, and I honestly think that's dumb, but I think it's sweet at the same time. You have someone who would die for his values, and that says a lot. That says a lot about Sanji, if anything else. He holds values more than he cares about his own life, and that's massive characterization right there for Sanji. He also would sacrifice himself in order for others to live, as we saw with Jin and the Dawn Creek, and as we saw with him saving Jin, and also as we saw with him trying to save the Vinsmoke family, and him when Kuma was about to kill Zoro, he stepped in and he was like, "No, don't kill Zoro. Zoro has a dream. Kill me." And even though that Kuma didn't attack Sanji, that was such a very brave move that showed that he would rather sacrifice himself than lose crew members. And that adds to his characterization, obviously, that he is not number one. He is after his friends in terms of who he cares about. Um, Now that aside, he is he has a very classy type of vibe to him, obviously, with the whole um, honor tied to him and the chivalry and being a gentleman. He actually, and I noticed this because I actually used to take etiquette classes. If you look at the way Sanji eats, he uses etiquette, and there are small details about him commenting to Brooke when Brooke first ate with the Straw Hats back before he became a Straw Hat. Brooke was very rude. He burped and farted and laughed all about it, and Sanji was like, "Nah, dude, respect the food. Like, you don't do this while you're eating. That's very rude." And that, in a way, shows his level of professionalism. Like it's just small details like that that show you characterization. Even the uniform shows you professionalism, which adds to characterization. Now, that aside, let's talk about lust. Now, in terms of lust, I'd put Sanji I'd put Sanji above I'd put Sanji right below Roshi Jiraiya level. Like, actually, no, no. He is with them on the same level. He's Sanji lust is the same as Jiraiya lust is the same as Roshi lust. Like, just the only difference is I think Sanji would be less likely to intrude. No, Sanji wouldn't intrude upon a girl's, like a random girl. He wouldn't try to sneak up on them and actually, no, he would. He would, because he talked about having the invisible fruit, that devil fruit that made you invisible, so he would peek at girls in the shower. So he would do it. So yeah, he's basically like Jiraiya and like Roshi in terms of lust. That aside, let's talk about his overall experience and his skill level. Now, let's talk about the experience he gained in Germa 66. Now, the first one is strategic thinking. Now, Sanji has always had a strategic capability that a lot of the Straw Hats lacked. He was the one that devised the plan that got Crocodile out of the room that Luffy was in, and also and he tricked Crocodile basically. He during the Fishman Island arc, he defeated the Fishman by luring him out of the water. He's the one that planned ahead to the part where he basically closed the gate of justice before they left Annie's lobby. What else? I mean, he did a lot of things. If you think about it, he's the person that always leaves on those solo missions. Like that one time where the train was leaving to Annie's lobby, and he just hops on to go grab Robin. I mean, that over there shows you like the mindset that he was put in and trained to think on when he was an assassin. Because when you're an assassin, you go alone, you try and stealth your way in, which he attempted to do back in Annie's lobby when he was on the train. He tried to sneak aboard and just walk across as if he was just another person, just a regular infiltration, which I'm guessing he was trained to do but never did because he left Germa as a kid. Now, the other thing is identification training. Now, if you think about it, when you're an assassin, you need to be book smart. You need to know who you're targeting. You need to be able to identify this, that, and the other, and understand cultural norms in order to fit in. Now, we actually see that in One Piece, especially, and this is the highlight, when Sanji was able to tell that the boggled head that Trafalgar Law messed with was that of a samurai in Wano. Now, the Straw Hats never went to Wano. They never knew what a samurai looked like in terms. Well, they did, of course, of cliche things and stuff, but it was Sanji that figured out that it was a samurai, and um, and it wasn't Chopper or Nami or Robin. Robin wasn't there, I don't think, even though they're very book smart, Nami and Robin and Chopper. But Chopper is, in terms of pharmaceuticals, book smart, not anything else. It wasn't Nami, it wasn't Robin, it was Sanji, and you have a lot of stuff like that where he instinctively knows stuff just by looking at people, and he's able to analyze and identify people's capabilities. For example, when he fought Jabra in CP7, he was able to evaluate his opponent's capabilities and create a countermeasure rather quickly, therefore defeating Jabra quite easily in the Enies Lobby arc. Now, oh yeah, Enies Lobby. The other one is Water 6, Water 7, Water 6, whatever. He's also book smart, specifically in the culinary arts, but that's later on. You see him talking about stuff in cultures like when he was in Alabasta, and he commented on the wear of like what people wear and stuff, even though he was trying to trick Nami into wearing something exposing, but Nami exposed him. Nami found out that he was lying, so on and so forth. But that aside, let's move on from Germa experience to Baratier experience. And with Baratier experience, the first thing he learned is the basics of the culinary arts, and then he built on that later on, also in the Baratier. And the basics of the culinary art is very important because that's what the rest of his culinary skills are going to be built on. And I think the real combat training that he experienced was not in Germa, but was in the Baratier. When he was working under Zeph, you could tell that his fighting style, which is solely leg-based, was developed by Redfoot Zeph way back when, and Redfoot Zeph taught Sanji how to fight. So Sanji knows how to fight because of Redfoot Zeph. Now, that aside, we could obviously say that Redfoot taught Sanji and not Judge. Even though Judge did teach him how to fight with a sword, Sanji just probably forgot it. Or no, he probably still uses his swordsman skills in the kitchen when he cuts stuff. So that probably is attributed to Germa. But that aside, overall fighting capability goes to Sanji Vinsmoke. Now, after fighting experience, the other thing, and this is the most important thing, is mannerisms. His chivalry came from the Baratier, where Zeph booted it into his head, where Zeph gave him some proper parenting and basically taught him to be a decent human being that values honor and values dignity. That is obviously attributed to his time in the Baratier, so that's there. Mastering the culinary arts, he later on became much better after he was a little kid. He developed his culinary skills until he became a master in the Baratier. Now, honestly, I'm not sure how much he developed during the time between the Baratier and Kamabaka Kingdom, but the obvious is that his overall fighting experience increased, his fighting capabilities increased. He mastered Diable Jambe, which of course goes to overall fighting capabilities. Now, I honestly think Diable Jambe is basically hockey based, just like King of Lightning. I'm not gonna link because I'm not that experienced with YouTube, but check his channel. He has a video on that, and I honestly do believe that, and I did for a very long time, way before King put that video up. I'm not sure how long King believed in it, but basically, right when I watched the Marine Fort War, and saw all that stuff with Mick Guy and the lightning sword and one of Whitebeard's commanders with the fire, I thought that something was up there. And then when we were introduced to hockey, later on, right after the time skip, that's when I started making a small connection, being like, hey, is it possible that that is hockey? Because in my perspective, hockey is the equivalent of Naruto's chakra, Hunter x Hunter is Nen, so on and so forth. Therefore, if that fire capability, that lightning capability, is attributed to anything, it is hockey and nothing else. Now that aside, Diable Jambe, during the time where he was with the Straw Hat Pirates, and overall travel experience in terms of understanding different cultures and so on and so forth. Even though I think he learned a bit about that during his time with Germa, I think it developed when he actually traveled. One of actually my favorite scene in One Piece is not a fight scene. It's when Sanji compliments one of my favorite fucking desserts. He says that he likes kunafa. And kunafa, he says he likes kunafa. Kunafa is an Egyptian dessert, and it's one of my fucking favorites. And when he said that, that's when I automatically was like, you know what? Sanji just went up my list. Like, you just made my fucking day, you made my fucking year, you made my fucking decade. Like, Sanji, thank you very fucking much. Now, that aside, besides travel experience, I think he also, well, he gained, I actually wrote, I was the initial person to write this article on the One Piece Wiki. He also discovered how to manipulate people's faces, how to kick people's faces back in, facial reconstruction, basically, where you kick someone's face and change the cartilage and the muscles, so on and so forth, and basically change the way they look, change their appearance just by kicking them. And this was basically first discovered during the time he took with the Straw Hats before the time skip, but it was mastered later on during the time skip itself, because he does it to Duvall and threatens to undo it to Duvall, which is something that he did by accident to Wanze way back when, before the time skip began. Now, during his stay in the Kamabaka Kingdom, what I attributed to is advanced culinary techniques. Basically, he improved his cooking skills overall, and culinary secrets. Now, remember in Punk Hazard where he cooks this meal that increases endurance and basically hormonal wellness and so on and so forth? I do not doubt that Sanji will be able to cook meals that heal stuff later on. Culinary secrets that basically are the power up, that give like people temporary power ups or whatnot. Not like, but like just make people regain their stamina, so on and so forth. I don't doubt that Sanji is able to do this because of what he learned in the Kamabaka Kingdom. Now, the other one, and this is the biggest one by far, his mastery of Haki, with his concentration being on observation Haki, which makes sense because he was running from the people in the Kamabaka Kingdom, and in order to do that, you need to be aware. You don't want one of them to like grab you and force dress you into that pink dress that they were trying to dress him in. So it makes sense that his specialty would be in observation, because you need that more than armament in order to avoid them catching you. Now, that aside, he actually he developed armament Haki. I don't think he's a master, but he knows it well enough to use it in battle, and we saw that against Virgo We saw that against against Judge, and that's pretty much it. And Doflamingo. Okay, that aside, he also learned Skywalk, which is basically Genpo. Now, that opens the door to Sanji learning a lot of other stuff, but that's for the later part of this video, which is right about now, when I talk about his possible power-ups. Now, Sanji's possible power-ups. He already knows Genpo. He already knows Skywalk. So the two other six powers techniques that he could know are Rankyoku, sorry. My Japanese sucks. Which is basically him kicking the air and slicing it. Now, I think he'll be able to master it, because I don't think it's that far astride from regular Genpo. And I think that he'll most likely unlock it in the middle of a fight. I don't know when. Now, Soru, which is when they run real fast. I don't even think Sanji needs to unlock this, because I think his base speed is faster than Soru. Because we already saw him blitz during fights with Doflamingo and Virgo, especially with Virgo, where you see them in opposite sides, and then all of a sudden they're like right over in front of each other, attacking one another, and it's very fast. I think basically all the Straw Hats, no, not all, the Monster Trio plus Brook, and possibly Usopp, and that's a big if, already have the speed for Soru. And, well, Nami, no, not Nami, yeah, possibly Usopp, because Usopp's running capability was already well established in the early parts of the chapter, and it would only make sense for him to develop them during the time skip, if anything, to survive the wilderness that he lived in. Now, that aside, the other power-up besides Rankyoku that I think he's gonna get is a Haki Manipulation of Lightning. And the reason I say that is he already has Haki Manipulation of Fire, so it wouldn't be that far away to get Haki Manipulation for Lightning. Now, it's kind of a, I am not 100% sure that that's going to happen, obviously. Honestly, I think the percent of that happening is more like 60% or 55%. That being said, the ones I'm very, 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 very certain of are strengthening armament Haki, not having it being the main focus, but just strengthening armament Haki. I think that will happen in the near future. And also, advancing observation Haki, where you have an advanced observation Haki power where either you could see people's auras, you could see the future like Katakuri, or you could do something else along those lines. I think it's going to be something we haven't seen before, where it's more like the regular NL type observation Haki, where well, not NL, because that's an extreme example, because NL's observation Haki, Jesus Christ, he'd be like, the guy's over there in the island. No. Actually, no, I think Sanji would be able to do that, because he would have the strongest observation Haki in the crew by the time the series is over, so I don't doubt that would happen, but I think his main observation Haki ability will be along the lines of not foreshadowing, but seeing what's going to happen before it does, kind of like Katakuri, but in a different way, where it's solely combat related and not event related, because I think that would be a power that would really benefit Sanji and really fit into his ability to calculate people's capabilities and his ability to conceive and create tactics on the spot. Now, this basically marks the end of my video. If you liked my video, please subscribe and give my video a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike and explain why you disliked it in the comments below. And until next time, Anime Gypsy is until next time, I'm out. Bye.